Welcome back to the Zweet podcast, where we connect the dots between real estate and technology, helping property managers, brokers, and real estate pros work smarter, not harder. I'm your host, Marcus Texada. Today, I'm joined by Zweet Zpot, better known as the Value Optimizer. With decades of experience blending real estate, data, and tech, Drew developed a structured value optimization system that helps sellers and agents maximize property value, especially in high-stakes estate sales where proving top dollar isn't optional, it's essential. Welcome, Drew.
Thank you, Marcus. Great intro. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, Drew, you're known as the value optimizer, but let's back up. Now, what's your story now, and how did you move from traditional real estate into developing this data-driven system?
Well, I think, in a prior conversation, I told you, I came out of the database industry. So I used to work places like Princeton University where I was a data analyst. And, through that, I saw a lot to do with different numbers, and you could see patterns in data. And when I've been licensed in real estate since 1985, but decided to go full-time about 20 years ago. And I noticed that most of the agents seemed to act like it was some kind of black magic being able to sell houses. And I thought to myself, there's got to be big numbers. There's got to be patterns. People behave in certain ways. There's got to be a way to figure out, based on the number of showings I get, how likely I am to be able to sell this house. How many people click on my website to take a look at the listing. How many times does the listing show up in a search result? And I started to track all these and figured out that there was definitely a funnel, like we call a sales funnel. And you start out with a certain number of people that shows up in their search. Out of that number of people, a certain number of people click on details. Out of that, a certain number of people that click on the details will actually request more information or schedule an appointment and come and see the property. So with that, I found out that there were some national averages. For instance, it took 11 showings on average to get one offer. Now, typically speaking, that offer was not an acceptable offer, but it got an offer. You had to have 17 showings in order to get a full price offer, and you usually got a couple other offers. And if you got 21 or more showings and this is all within a 3-week period, then you were going to have multiple bids over asking. And depending on how many showings you got, you could actually consider raising your price. So many people have said to me, you can raise your price? And to that I respond, well, we can lower the price. Why can't we raise it? And I've had several agents say to me, you raised the price. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why'd you do that? I said, well, because it was unfair to a lot of the agents who were coming to show the property with buyers who couldn't afford it. I said, so, I had to raise the price so that I didn't waste people's time. When you start to get 20, 30 people showing a property, you're wasting a lot of people's time. Only one person's going to get to buy the house. So in raising the price, you manage to cut out a lot of the riffraff that the people who aren't really qualified and get down to the real buyers. So
Okay.
That's how I arrived at the system.
So why are the first 3 weeks so critical in determining whether a property sells for top dollar?
Sure. So the buyers know this idea that a house will diminish in value if it's on the market for more than 45 days. Right? It's a pretty well-known thing amongst buyers. So if you think about it, when I'm marketing a house, the first week I put it on the market, I can hit the MLS, I can send out emails, I can make phone calls, I can hold an open house that weekend, maybe the next weekend. There's a bunch of stuff I can do to market the property, and then awareness increases, and you'll see if you're tracking all these different key performance indicators that I just spoke about, if you're tracking them, you'll see them ramp up over the first 2 weeks. And at the end of the second week, it will taper off and start to go down. So you basically have 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks, to make an impression. That's your first impression. Okay? And now you start to get some showings, and by the end of the third week, you have established whether or not you price that house right or not. Because if nobody comes, you're too high. Right? If people come and you don't get any offers, you have a condition problem. You got to get some feedback and figure out why. You may be priced right for the neighborhood, but when they walk in, they're disappointed. So, why are they disappointed? What can you do about that? So my value optimization system looks at those first 3 weeks. You collect the real life data about your particular house, not the market at large. Now you know how your house is responding in that market, and now you have real legitimate data in order to make a decision. So if we have feedback that says, oh, the house is too small, not much we can do about it. Okay? On the other hand, if we have a situation where they say, yeah, this room is dark, or we don't like the carpeting, or the paint, or it stinks, sometimes buyers forget to clean the drain out of their sink or take their garbage out or whatever, so those are things we can deal with. We can say, okay, let's put a light in this room. Let's take some furniture out to make it look a little bigger, so that fourth week is the adjustment week. And then my system has a way to look at the number of showings at that price and adjust it just enough to create a bidding war in the next 3 weeks. So we've done the first 3 weeks, we've made the changes that we needed to make, and now we throw it back on the market at the new price and treat it like a brand new listing all over again and repeat the whole marketing process. So that's why I call it a 42-day promise, because we got 21 days plus 21 days, it's 42 days. So I offer an agreement that spells out exactly what I'm going to do in the first 21 days on market, how we're going to make an adjustment during the next week, and then how I'm going to remarket the house for the next 21 days. It's a service level agreement. Another thing that I took out of corporate America, because in the IT space, when you buy software, you need somebody to maintain it. They give you a service level agreement to maintain the product after you buy it. And so I took that and brought it from corporate America into the real estate space. And so what that does for people who, like attorneys or business people who end up being executors of estates, it's great for them because they're typically business people. So they're familiar with service level agreements, and they like data, and they like to know that they're making educated decisions on what to do next. And also, they're held to a high standard. When you're the executor of an estate, you can be sued for not selling the property at full market value. So my system gives them all the data and backing that they need to avoid a lawsuit, because we're showing exactly how many showings they got. Everything gets booked through a system that tracks the showings, tracks the feedback. We're making educated decisions on the changes we're making, and we're getting them top dollar for the house. So it would be really hard for any of the heirs to turn around and say, oh, you sold this house to your buddy for pennies on the dollar, and took some money on the side or something like that.
So you built the value optimization system. Is it built on a database, Excel or SQL, or how did you?
So it's fairly simple in that regard. I collected the data, from third parties to build the system, but there's actually a table in my service level agreement, and the table basically goes something like this. If you have 0 to 3 showings, we're priced about 15% too high. If you have between 5 and 11 showings, we're priced about 10% too high. If you have between 11 and 17 showings, we may be priced about 5% too high. Right? If you have 17 showings or higher, we nailed it, right? We nailed the price. And then if we go over, let's say 21 showings, we have to start talking about increasing the price because we're getting too many showings. We estimated the value of the property. So the other thing that builds into this whole process is I do a lot of research to determine what the average price per square foot is from a statistical standpoint for a move-in condition house. So you'll see a lot of I learned this through the mortgage meltdown, right? When there were a lot of distressed properties for sale. So if you were to take people out to buy a house, it looked like there was tons of inventory. But most of the inventory was either a short sale, a foreclosure, in some kind of distress, physically. So it had physical problems, it had financial problems, the owner had problems, there was just problems all over some of these houses where a typical owner-occupant couldn't really buy the house. And that would be as much as sometimes all the inventory. So you take a buyer out who's getting a mortgage and try to find them a house, and you find out that out of 30-something houses, there's only 6 of them, 30 houses in their price range. There's only 6 of them that they can actually buy because all the rest of them you have to be a cash buyer. Mm-hmm. You go and you show them the 6 houses. By the time you were done showing 6 houses, 2 of them were already under contract. So you're down to 4. All right? And out of those 4, they might have liked one of them. So now you're down to 1, and the media is telling your buyer that this is a buyer's market. All right?
Yeah.
And I have to turn around and say to these people, well, I just sent you 30 houses in your price range. Out of those 30, 6 of them were marketable. Out of those 6, 2 are gone. There's 4 left. You only like 1, and you want to negotiate the price? Now, I can't really say it in that way, right? Mm-hmm. But I do kind of lay it out that way when I was working with the buyers because I started out as a buyer's agent. And so that's how I really learned, okay, there's some real numbers here. If I can't find 30 houses in somebody's price range, chances are I'm not going to find them a house. If they only like 1 out of the 30. So that's when I really got triggered that, wow, there's got to be some rule of big numbers going on here. And so I kind of that got me triggered to back into, when I'm on the listing side, how does that work? The other thing that I do for the estates is that people buy houses on emotion. So when I was out with the buyers, I could show a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo on the 2nd floor that was furnished beautifully, painted nicely, nice floors, and priced $20,000 higher than the same exact condo in the next building over on the 2nd floor, which needed floors, paint, and, but the one that needed floors and paint had a brand new furnace. The people would buy the one with the old furnace that was decorated nicer for $10,000 or $20,000 more than they would the one that was not decorated, that was vacant, but had a brand new furnace. And my head went.
Emotions. We do buyers buy on emotion. Investors buy looking at the total property.
Right. So if you're a seller, do you want to sell to an investor or do you want to sell to the end buyer who's going to pay 20 grand more on aesthetics? Right? And what did it cost to put floors and paint into a condo? It could be $5,000. So if you put $5,000 in flooring and paint into the other condo and you got 20 grand more, it's a no-brainer. Right?
It is.
It doesn't take any time. It doesn't even take any time to do it. You could have, my rule of thumb is you don't do anything that takes you more than 4 weeks. Right? So I would never put a furnace in to a house if the furnace was working. Right? You're not going to get more money for the house because it has a new furnace. So why would you spend $15,000 on a new furnace if you could just leave the old one in there as long as it's working? Now, if the furnace had a humidifier on it and the humidifier wasn't working, then my recommendation would be to remove the humidifier cover the hole, right? Patch it up nice and make it functional. But if it's not there, it's not broken. So you do all the cosmetic stuff up front, make the place look good. You take care of anything that's broken by removing it, because when the inspector comes in, if it's not there, it's not going on his inspection report because it's not there. So I've saved so many sellers money by just saying remove that. The inspector won't see it, it won't be there. And so humidifier is a great example. The adjustment at closing is typically $500 for a humidifier that doesn't work. When it's not there, there's no adjustment. You know,
Very, very true.
there was never one there, and nobody even questions it. They don't even think about it. But inspector comes through and it's broken, just costs you money. So
True.
that's a big part of my process is I walk into the house, I look through, and I create a must-do, a should-do, and a could-do list. The must-do can be broken into two things that you must do today, cosmetic, and things that you're going to have to do in order to get to the closing table to get a CO. All right? But the stuff that you must do to get a buyer is always cosmetic. Once you get it under contract, you have 6 weeks to address the things that the CO is going to, it's going to fail on. So if you have an issue with the furnace or the air conditioner, nobody's coming in and testing your furnace or your air conditioner, typically speaking, depending on the time of the year, right? But you get to get top dollar for the house, and now you can give a seller's concession for the furnace, or you have time to put a new one in. But either way you do it, you have time to make that decision, but now you know how much money you have to work with. And so with the estates, that's a critical thing for estates, because you typically have multiple heirs and multiple people questioning your decisions about, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? How do we, make sure we get the most money? What's happening to the furniture in the place? Who's taking which piece? Stuff like that. And then once all of a sudden they have an extra $100,000 in value coming to them for the what they thought they were going to get 60 cents on the dollar, let's say a $500,000 home, 60 cents on the dollar, versus a $500,000 home at 95 cents on the dollar. You're talking about a good $150,000, $170,000 difference. All the fighting amongst the heirs stops. Nobody cares about the furniture anymore, or the jewelry box that had a $100 bracelet or something like that in it, and it's really amazing, And then the buyers fight over the property, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, true. Now, what's an example of where the system turned a stagnant listing into a bidding war?
So I will tell you that most of the time I have to raise the prices on my houses, because if my customers, repeat customers, they will follow my method. So we will price the house at the peak of. You're familiar with a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Like bell curve, distribution curve, and
Hmm.
so if we try to price it just above the peak. So just moving into the section where less people have the ability to buy the house, but still right near it, close to the average. So if we price it there at the average price per square foot, I do calculations of price per square foot for that neighborhood. I do it for the town. I do it for houses of similar type. And I do it for houses that are not the similar type. And then I do it for the town which is considered nicer than theirs, and the town that's considered less than theirs. So we know exactly where they fit in the bell curve. And then we try to get just on the leading edge of the bell curve. So we're a little bit, but we're still got about 50% of the population who's looking for a house. It's going to fall on their search criteria, right? So we're going to maximize the number of eyes that see that listing. And then from there, we're going to maximize the number of people who click on it and the number of showings we get, and then we're going to be able to raise the price. And so occasionally I'll get somebody who wants to list their house. As you know, the bell curve is shaped like this, and so you're down here in the tail, And in that tail, there's maybe only 5% of the population that can afford that house. So sometimes I'll get somebody that says, I'm not comfortable with that. I want to start up here in the tail and work my way backwards. So that's why I developed the system. I said, okay, we'll start with the tail. And after 21 days, we'll make an adjustment with real data to get us to the fat part. And so that's part of that whole scientific approach or statistical approach, is to figure out where we are on the bell curve and then move us into the fat part without going to the other side of the fat part. So we're still on the high end of the curve. We're still getting a large number of showings. And then in the second 21 days, I get the same bidding war. It just is delayed 21 days. Mm-hmm. If they do it from the beginning at the median or the average price, I get that bidding war within 3 weeks. If they want to start in the tail of the curve, then we go through 3 weeks of marketing. After 3 weeks of marketing, we make the adjustment and we get the same result. It just takes a little longer.
Okay, I definitely, earlier you was talking about the service level agreement. And I definitely, in the IT world, it is a SLA. But I've never heard anybody in the real estate world present an SLA to their customer or client, and so that's very interesting. I like that.
Now that you mentioned that, let me touch on that real quickly. I don't take 6-month listings. I take 3-month listings, and my service level agreement gives them all the terms and conditions that they can use to get out of the listing. So if I don't do any of the things that I promised to do within each phase, I have 2 phases, right? The first 21 days is the first phase, second 21 days is the second phase. I also adjust my commission. My commission is lower if they agree to the model. So I teach them how to reduce my commission. I go, when I sit down with them, I go, I'm going to teach you how to reduce my commission. Right? Because if I can get the house sold in, 3 weeks on market, then I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to charge you as much money. All right. If I have to work for 6 months, I got to charge you more because I'm working harder. So I said, I'm going to get you more money and charge you less in a shorter amount of time. How does that sound to you? They're like, all right, show me. It's a win-win for everybody, right? Because I get a happy customer. They refer me to other people. They get the highest price possible at the lowest commission possible. Even on the buyer side, what is going to bring buyers in? If you have to offer a high commission to the buyer's agent in order to drive traffic because you're priced too high, versus pricing it right, offering a lower commission to the buyer's agent, and getting better buyers. The second scenario sounds much better, right? Mm-hmm. And now that they've changed the rules with real estate, where the buyers have to negotiate their own commissions with the buyer's agent, it just is even more powerful now, because we're going to drive that kind of traffic. The buyers are going to call their agent and say, show me this house. I got to get in this house. Yeah. And we're going to get it done fast.
All right. So as far as for smaller brokerages or property managers, what's the simplest way to apply a data-driven approach without big budgets or teams?
Yeah, well, I don't have a big budget, and I don't have a big team. So, I do have the ability to go into the Bright MLS, and they have a very nice report in there that makes that job easy for anything that's in that territory. When I'm outside of that territory in other MLSs, I have to do a lot more work because they don't have the same reporting. But Bright gives me this great table. It gives me max price per square foot, min price per square foot, median average price per square foot, and then it also gives me the actual sale price. It gives me data on expireds, pending, temporary off the market. It gives me a nice table where I can look at all that. It gives me days on market, longest days on market, shortest days on market. Um, so median and average, right? So the other thing that I do to adjust my data, and this comes out of my data analysis experience, you're looking for houses that are representative. So you'll see some outliers once in a while. Like if everything is priced around $260 a square foot and you see a $460 square foot listing in there, you got to go find that one and see why? What was it about that one? Does that make it an outlier? And typically you're going to take that one out of the mix, right? Likewise, you may see another one that instead of 260, it sold for $60 a square foot. Like, all right, what happened to that one? Well, the listing agent didn't put it in as a distressed property. You go and you look at it and you see there's one picture, it says cash only buyer, right? So I eliminate all the cash only distressed properties from the mix. I eliminate all the crazy outliers, right? I'm only looking at marketable homes that sold to somebody with a mortgage. And as long as you're looking at houses that only sold to people who bought them as a primary residence, for a mortgage or with a mortgage, to own or occupy, you get good data. And people who buy with a mortgage tend to pay more than people who buy with cash. It's just the nature of the beast, right? So how is a mortgage buyer going to beat out a cash buyer? Paying extra. The amount is typically at least $10,000. Sometimes 20 has been my experience. If you're a seller and somebody comes to you with cash for $400,000 and somebody comes to you with a loan for $420, you go, 20 grand, is it worth taking a chance on the loan? Is it going to appraise? Do I think it'll appraise for $420? Can I get them to guarantee appraisal? You start going to that thinking, Whereas if it was apples to apples, 400 and 400, one's a mortgage, one's cash, you can close in 2 weeks with one, you got to wait 6 weeks for the other. You're going to go with the cash buyer every time. So that's why I base it on houses that got a mortgage to buy them. Because if they got a mortgage, they also got a CO. So I also there's another term that I use is CO ready. So we're not getting these houses, when I was talking about the repairs to do the house, we're not getting the house to be the Taj Mahal. We're not doing granite countertops and marble floors. We're doing rental grade, CO ready. All right, we're promising in the listing that we can give a CO, that the house will be ready for occupancy, but it's rental grade. We're not going top of the market, right? So these are very minor changes, but there's a lot of people in the market who need a roof over their head, decent floors, decent paint. They want to be able to move their furniture in day one and not have to paint the house or put flooring down. And that's that. So many buyers out there in that price range, or in that mentality, I should say.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Now, if someone's listening, want to implement one idea tomorrow, what's the first step?
So I think the first step would be to really understand, especially if their database has the capabilities, how to eliminate all the distressed properties from their comps. Realtors right now tend to use the comp model, which is find another house that's similar to it, that's sold in the area. And from my experience, that's a really weak way to do it. From a statistical analysis point of view, being that I was a data analyst, I can't even believe our industry does it that way. It's a joke, all right? And so then I've done some experiments to see, because you always have an appraiser come out. So I would do a guesstimate of where the appraisal was going to come in. And I swear to you, the appraisers go back in their back room, they do the calculation I'm doing. They figure out, okay, there's the max price, there's the min price, this is the average median price. This thing is somewhere in the range, price per square foot. All right, I feel good. They just want to make sure they're not getting sued from from anybody or letting a mortgage go through for the wrong amount. And as long as it's in the zone, they're happy with it. So I can give my sellers a pretty good idea whether this property is going to appraise or not, just by the stats. So that's where
Okay.
I would start. If I were an agent, I'd get real familiar with those stats.
All right. The stats. Now, all right, we're going to do a quick fire round. Just say what comes to mind. Give me 6 questions, okay?
Sure.
Number one, what's the biggest mistake agents make when pricing a home?
Well, you got to unfortunately, you got to let your sellers overprice the house sometimes, right? But I think the mistake they make is not setting a time frame on how long they're going to do it. Like, okay, we'll try this out, but we got to be realistic. If nothing happens after a certain amount of time, we got to make an adjustment.
Okay. Now, one cosmetic fix you always recommend.
The first room you see when you walk in the house better look good. All right, so if that's flooring or paint or getting some furniture out of it, to make it look less cluttered. But that first impression when you walk through the door, that room better look good.
One cosmetic fix you almost always skip.
Uh, Kitchen countertops. I mean, it's too expensive. You don't get the money back. Yeah.
Okay.
If it's Formica and it's in decent shape, just leave it. Let them decide what they want to do with it.
Now, best book, tool, or resource for agents wanting to up their game.
So I've been through the Keller Williams Millionaire Real Estate, book. There's definitely useful things in it, but when you get into it, you're being able to do all the things in there all at the same time. I've not been able to accomplish that. But there are definitely, you got to basically look at one of the things he teaches, one chapter, implement it, and then get that down, and then go on to the next one, and just keep adding to it. But you definitely have to have 2 or 3 of his chapters, going in your business, at least. And then, if you can get 3 of them going, I'd say you'd be in pretty good shape. There's many more, but probably 3 would be the minimum.
Okay. In one sentence, why should sellers trust data over gut feeling?
Well, so sellers actually have a really good idea what their house is worth. All right, so if their gut tells them that their house is worth more than anybody else's house, I go with their gut, honestly. All right, because the data, it's still got limitations. But once the house is on the market, then the data doesn't lie. So if they have a gut that they can get $1 million for the house, all right, let's try $1 million for 21 days. All right,
Okay.
I always go with their gut.
Okay. Now, how would AI and automation reshape the daily work of real estate professionals?
So I've been using it lately, a lot. And I use it in several different ways. But you really have to be careful how you ask your questions. Because if you don't know the reasonable range of the right answer, it's like any tool, right? When you first got a calculator when you were a kid, and you put the decimal in the wrong place and you get a funny answer, you better know that's the wrong answer. That number's too high or too low by a decimal place, right? Order of magnitude difference. So it's the same thing with AI. If you ask it a question, it comes back with an answer, and you don't have the ability to look at that answer and go, I think AI missed something. So I go back and forth with it a lot. I go, I think you're off on that answer. Can you explain to me how you got to that answer? Have you factored this in? Have you factored that in? And it's funny because it often says to me, oh, good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Now that you've said that, here's the adjusted answer. And yeah. And then there's also the nuances of, we're dealing with human beings here. right? And emotions. Um, AI is not going to factor in emotional stuff often to, some of the negotiations, unless you really frame that stuff and say, well, I've got a situation where the owner is a, ex-military and, wants to see somebody in the military get their house and is willing to sell it to them for less than market value if he can, sell it to one of his own people. Um, you have to add, you have to spell that out for it, and it will take it into consideration if you do that. But you know, uh, it's an interesting tool. I'm having fun with it.
Very good. Now, let's recap the big takeaways. The first 3 weeks make or break a listing. Cosmetic fixes matter, but only the right ones. Estate sales require proof and data ends disputes. And no matter your shop size, structure systems beats guesswork. Now, Drew, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about the value optimization system?
Sure. So my brokerage is Zweet Zpot Real Estate. So it's zweetspot.com, but it's spelled with Z's. So it's ZWEET and ZPOT.com. And then, of course, my phone number, 609-933-1773. And my email address is drew@zweetspot.com.
All right. Thank you, Drew. Now, if you got value from today's conversation, hit subscribe, share with a colleague, and leave us a quick review. It helps us bring more movers and shakers like Drew. I'm Marcus Texada, and this has been the Truthist Podcast. Until next time, keep combining data with real estate wisdom to stay ahead of the curve. All right. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Marcus.
All right. All right. I'm going to keep it going just for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
And I'm, of course, edit all this out.
Sure.
What are your thoughts? You did great, in my opinion.
All right. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Very good job interviewing, too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Have you ever done a podcast before? Or?
I did one about a month ago.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't know what the guy did with it.
Oh, really?
It was good practice for you.
I'm going to edit this and I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to upload it to YouTube and then send you the link and everything.
All right. Yeah, he said he was going to do that. I haven't seen it. I don't, in fact, I reached out to him, I think because of your call, reminded me to reach out to him to see what he did with it, But
wow.
I did get a random lead over the weekend. Somebody that visited my website and asked me to contact them. So I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if that guy posted that thing and that's how somebody found me through my website.
He didn't tell you.
I haven't talked to him yet because of the holiday weekend, but going to give him a call after we're done.
Okay. And as far as you're doing AI, what are you doing for lead generation or?
So it is a wild thing, Marcus. I get all my leads from God.
Okay.
Right? I don't know how it happens. I don't advertise. I don't market. I just have repeat customers over the years. Not sure. It's the strangest thing. Like, I'll be like, all right, I'm running out of leads. I better do something. And my phone rings, and I get a new listing. And it's just been staying like that for years now. Just surprising to me. And every time I think about, let me go do some more marketing or something, I get busy, and I fall off the marketing cart. So then I think to myself, should I hire more agents? But they require a lot of work.
They do. Yeah. They do.
And they can get you in trouble.
That's true.
Yeah. So, the way the state has things set up is if you have one agent who does something wrong and they get fined for $500 and you get another agent who does something wrong, well, their fine doubles to $1,000. And then if you have a third unrelated agent do something wrong, that fine doubles again to $2,000.
Oh wow. So
Yeah,
that agent, so the first one who does something wrong gets away with minimal.
yeah,
Any, even if it's that second agent's first time, they get paid fined double.
yeah. And the third one, double that. And it maxes out at, I think it maxes out at $20,000. But I mean, that'd put you out of business in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah, it's they set it up so it's very punitive to have anybody, anything go wrong uh, with your brokerage. And
Okay.
so, I mean, I don't know that it happens that often, but I can see the potential for it. Yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
I have my little crab shack, and I have young kids working for me, but this weekend, two of the girls that work for me decided to have a fist fight on the job. I mean, one of them pummeled the other one to the point there was blood all over my front of my counter. My customers called the police. Um, this is in a really nice neighborhood, mind you, right? This is, beach community, high-end place, $1 million homes. um, yeah, and the girl recorded the damage that she did to the other girl. When she was done beating her up, she took her phone out and said, "Look what I did to you."
I'm posting on social media a bit.
I'm sure she did.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what they do now. It's
Oh,
crazy. Oh
I see
wow.
something like that and I think to myself, now, realtors are an interesting group of people, I mean, we're like
Hmm.
that, right? We're very difficult to herd.
Yeah,
Um,
that's we just go rogue.
yeah,
Do what we want to do.
absolutely. So, when you got brokers working for, or realtors working for you under your brokerage and they're all cats and you can't herd them, whew.
Yeah.
So, so far I've been enjoying my autonomy, um, being my own broker and just, I have two agents, but they don't do any business. They're just kind of in semi-retirement. So I know they're not
Hmm.
going to get me in trouble.
Yeah. Nah, that's because I work for my sister-in-law is the broker
Uh-huh.
of the company, so it's a small brokerage. Um, I mean, I don't go rogue, but she don't watch me.
Right, right.
Yeah, she don't watch me. So, do you need any help with any systems in your business, or I mean, we can sit down and do a discovery call just to see if I
Well,
can.
look, one of the things I'm doing right now is I moved my office into a new location. I'm at the down the shore now,
Mhm.
and so I've been trying to figure out how to do a little more business around here, specifically on this island. Um, but I also shifted my some of my focus, at least, to business sales and commercial sales. So I've got two big pieces of land for sale right now. Um, should be getting one under contract this week, 600 acres. Um, I've got a restaurant for sale, actually two restaurants for sale, just the business, not the land or the building. Um,
Mhm.
and then, I'd like to do a little more on this island with residential real estate because the prices are high here. Average price of a house on this island is 1 million, um, at
Okay.
least at this point, right? So probably 1,500,000 to be honest with you. So um, yeah, if I could sell a few of those, but it gets competitive, right? And the rates, the commission rates go down because the price is so high,
Hmm.
and it gets very political over who's going to get the listings, right? So
Okay.
um, and there's no shortage of brokers on this island. Uh,
Do you do any social media, or I mean, I know you do anything
Not really, no.
social, just
I very little. Yeah.
okay.
Um, Most of the work that I've done in the past has been with investors in the state, you know, you know, attorneys. If I were going to do a marketing plan, I think that would be where I'd want to market, is to attorneys, estate planning attorneys, elder law attorneys. Um, but it's a very specific type of an attorney. Most attorneys are not willing to take any risk to do anything to the property because they see that they could get sued for doing anything to it, right? I happen to find this one attorney who is willing to take that risk, and so that's been a little bit of a challenge because to the attorneys, they're like, oh, I'll sell it for 60 cents on the dollar and be done with it. What do they care? Yeah.
Yeah. They just said get rid of it, pretty much.
Get it off the plate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to find an attorney who's willing to let me do a little bit of work to it and get the estate an extra, 100, 150,000, is a rare type of attorney. The other thing about that is if I can find an attorney who, sometimes you have an estate that doesn't have enough money to pay its debts. So the attorney looks at that estate and goes, I'm supposed to get $5,000 for doing this estate, but there's not enough money in the home to pay the creditors and still have enough money left for me to get paid. They don't want to touch the deal. But if I come along and I can get them 95 cents on the dollar as opposed to 60 cents on the dollar, now all of a sudden there's money to get them paid. Mm-hmm. But I would probably have to do a class or something like that targeting estate planning attorneys.
Yeah. Let me think about, because I know emailing the attorneys, I know they have to open up their email themselves, so it goes directly to the attorneys. So it doesn't go to the secretary or, the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So an email marketing campaign, with certain messages to get them to, let you talk to them. So let me think about some things like email marketing. Probably would be the best for the attorneys.
Yeah.
And then of course ads and stuff. But email marketing is the least expensive way to do it.
Right.
To get in front of them, and we can scrape those leads just so you're targeting estate attorneys and stuff like that.
Right.
And okay, what's your schedule like towards the end of this week to do a deep dive call?
What do you want to talk about? Trying to figure out how to do some marketing?
Yeah, marketing, get you leads for getting in front of estate attorneys, or you want to get in front of the new community that you're in. So we could talk about those things, how to generate business that way.
I mean, I probably looking at the calendar. I probably have some time on Thursday morning.
Thursday morning, okay. Will 10 Central work?
So you're an hour difference, I guess.
Yeah,
So that would be 11 for me.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll work. So there's, I'm imagining there's a service that you provide.
Yeah, it's a service I provide. Yes. But we customize it to what you need. So it's not a cookie cutter system. So, I'm adding you to my calendar now.
All right.
And this time we're gonna stay on Zoom. We're not coming to Riverside.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, I'm gonna cut off if that's all right with you. I got
Yeah,
another.
yeah. I'm sending it to you now. Okay,
All
yeah.
right.
I'll
Thanks,
see
Mark.
you. Talk to you on Thursday. Okay,
All
thanks,
right.
Drew.
Catch you later.